All right, what are we up to today here, Nath?
Just hanging some new barramundi and king salmon nets before the start of the 2025 barra season. So what I'm doing here is I'm just putting this hanging twine is what holds the mesh to the cork and the lead line, which is that behind me, lead core line. So what I'm doing is I'm just attaching the actual meshes to the float line and lead line, so that in the water, obviously this is floating on the surface, lead line's on the bottom, and the fish run into that, and that's how we catch and harvest barramundi, king salmon, shark, grunner, blue salmon. This is quite a large mesh net, so this will only catch larger grunner, barra, threadfin salmon and shark.
Can you explain how a gill net works selectively when fished correctly?
So this mesh is quite large. This is a 7-inch mesh, and the idea is they measure the distance from point to point, from knot to knot, pulled like that. So when we're hanging in the mesh, you want to make sure the diamonds are hanging nice and loose and down in a vertical fashion. You don't want them to be distort like that, or if you hang it too tight, it bunches up. You want it to be hanging nice and loose. So then in the water, when say that the current's coming this way, the meshes are just nice and loose, and the fish will swim along, and if they feel it, they mightn't quite get meshed here, but they'll come up and boom, get caught in there. And this is only a shallow net for flats, not for the deeper areas like estuaries and headlands. So this is for flats, so it doesn't need to be super deep, which reduces the entanglement of non-target species as well. So you don't want to use a net that fishes, 20 or 30 feet deep in 3 or 4 foot of water, because you'll just catch too many non-target species. So the idea is this is to minimise the belly, the flute I think they call it, and that'll keep the nasties, or the turtles and dugongs will hit it and bounce off, and we'll have less likely chance of killing an endangered species.
So what you're saying is when you're setting the net, you want it kind of quite taut and straight on the surface.
Yep.
And you want to be fishing in a depth of water that's not too shallow, that the net's going to get a big belly in it.
Yeah, that's right.
And so tangle things up.
It's all about using the right mesh depth apparatus for the right water depth. Where fishes have gone wrong in the past, they've used a net that's too deep for the shallow water, and that creates all this meshes that's just through the water column and not nice, and that's what entangles things that we don't want. But proactive fishers in the industry have always used the right depth net for the right depth water, and it's also easier on the operator. It's easier for me to work this net on my own than a net that's way too deep. Like who wants to work harder for possibly less fish? Doesn't make sense.